Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Pro Wrestling Extreme Talk. And tonight we have another guest from the Western Pennsylvania indie wrestling scene. And he is owner of the former KCW Wrestling and now Imagine Wrestling. Casanova Kato, as some of you might know him by, or Kato. I am going to bring him on here in a second. And JJ is going to join us. What's up, Jay?
What's good, man?
Hey, big interview tonight. We got Kato on the show tonight.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be interesting. So we got all the questions ready for him, and you ready to bring him on?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Kato, what's up?
Just living the dream. You know how it goes.
Absolutely. And welcome to Pro Wrestling Extreme Talk.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it, Larry. JJ, how are you guys tonight?
I am great. I don't know about Jay. He's a Roman Reigns guy, so I'm sure he's doing all right.
Boy, you got to start right off the top.
Absolutely.
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm also a Roman Reigns guy, so.
Oh. I feel bad for you. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what don't you like about Roman Reigns? Let's kick it off in a fun style. Tell me about the bad match that he had last. Let me hear that.
I mean, honestly, I just pick on him because of JJ. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, that guy's good. I don't know.
Because Larry is on Kenny Omega's jock. So
he likes prancing and weird gestations and matches that take way too long to finish and no selling and I got you. I got your type now, Larry.
Kato, I just fell in love with you.
That's disturbing. So Jay, go ahead and get this started.
Okay, so right off the top, we're gonna go with what inspired you to get into the biz. I mean, who were your inspirations?
You know, I've essentially watched wrestling my whole life. I basically can remember stuff from being 3 and 4 years old. When I was a kid, we didn't have cable television. We grew up really poor. But every Saturday night, we had a tradition of going to my grandmother's house to watch NWA on TBS at 6:05. And every Saturday night we went, and all my uncles were there, and my dad, and it's as long as I can remember. Then after that, I discovered wrestling on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. So for me, like, there's never been a point in my life where I haven't just been obsessed and in love with it. So as far as who inspired me, the business itself inspired me. I for all the heartache and headaches that it's caused, outside of my family, there's nothing I love more than wrestling.
All right.
Pretty cool. So, Kato, who trained you?
Well, initially I went to the APWF school, and at the time they had TC Reynolds there, and he would come in and train us, I think once a week at the time. And then, sort of in the gaps, there were some guys who had a little bit more experience that helped me out. I remember specifically Charlie Manson, who was one of the nicest dudes ever, who only had a year of experience, but he helped me along the way on a lot of chain. And then after a while, when TC stopped coming around, then Julio De Niro came in for a while, and then he helped me out and the crew there, and opened our eyes to a whole different world as far as wrestling. But for me, I definitely credit TC and Julio as the guys who I would say trained me.
Julio with a heck of a talent. Shame he didn't get a real good shot.
Yeah, the thing about Julio is he was so good and so athletic. I remember very early on thinking, gee whiz, if Julio can't get a shot at the WWE, what shot do I have? So I was pretty content pretty quick to just be a guy who traveled around Pennsylvania and Ohio and West Virginia. I was pretty okay with that. I mean, I did, there was a time when, in 05, 06, 07, 08, when I was working 3 times a week, and that's 150 gigs a year. I was pretty good with that, man. That was enough for me. Besides being a full-time construction worker and dad on top of it, that was enough.
Well, that's a hell of a schedule.
Yeah, it was. It was great. It was. In some ways, my favorite time of my whole life when we had KCW going, and then, I was working other dates besides. Man, it was really awesome.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So, what led to the birth of KCW?
Well, it's if I could go back in time and talk to my dumb 26-year-old self then, I'd say, what in the hell are you doing? At the time, me and another guy that maybe you've heard of, but most people have not, Dr. Feelgood, Sean Wismunski, we were traveling a lot as a tag team, and Sean had come up with the name the Freebirds 2000. This was in 2001-ish, and we were traveling a lot more than maybe two guys that had maybe a year and a half in the business deserved. But we were really fortunate to have a good, sort of a look and a good gimmick, and we worked really, really hard. So we got a lot of dates, and we're getting pretty popular all over. And so at a certain point, we came back to ABWF, and I felt like there was a bit of I don't know, I'll say jealousy over the fact that we were getting booked by so often by a few of the folks who had the then owner's Chris Lash's ear. And as a result, because of some partying we had done in West Virginia and amongst maybe some other things, they decided that they should fire us. And so as a result, I don't take rejection well. And I said, F you, I'll show you. And then I was off to the races, man. I started putting the stones in place to start KCW. And the funny thing is, I basically had 2.5 years in the business at that time. And I was at this jumping off point with KCW. And I think about some of the guys I have now that I'm training, Malachi Gage and Braden Elliott, who are basically at the same level, skill level, and knowledge level in wrestling that I was when I started the company. And if I were to find somebody now that only had 2.5 years of experience and they were going to start running their own shows, I would call them an idiot and a moron. So to think back that I did it, it's just crazy. But not for nothing, it worked out really well. What we sort of lacked in knowledge in the beginning was anchored by Julio. Julio helped us out exponentially right at the gate, and we brought in names. I remember I bent Terry Taylor's ear when he came in with us, literally for hours. I'm sure he was so annoyed by this young, long-haired blonde kid asking him questions about booking and promoting. And the Blue Meanie was running shows at that time in Philadelphia, and so he was on our second show. And I was blessed enough to get his phone number because I booked him, and I asked him a million questions along the way. So, it's nice to try to say I can take a lot of credit, but I had so much help along the way.
So, off of that, the Freebirds 2000, we've interviewed a couple of guys, and Feel Good has not been represented well. What are your thoughts on Feel Good?
His name gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bubba and Troy maybe have a very specific memory of Sean, and I can say, while things sort of ended for Sean and I very abruptly, and maybe not under the best of conditions, I probably would say I have more good memories than bad memories of Sean. We had a lot of laughs in the car together and a lot of fun together, and so what I've tried to do throughout my life now as I get older, block out the bad memories that I have of people and focus on the good memories. And I do have a lot of good memories of Sean, man. We had a lot of fun together. And was he a little egotistical? Sure. And was he, maybe rude to people when he shouldn't have been? Maybe I was too back then. So, I would say, I don't know. I like Sean. And if I saw him today, I'd give him a hug. Even though we're not friends anymore, I haven't talked to him in 15 years, maybe. I don't know, something like that. I would still give him a hug if I saw him today.
Okay. So how did when you got into the wrestling business and you needed a name, how did Casanova Kato come about?
So I didn't really have a name. I basically found out I was debuting just a few days ahead of time in Tyrone in 1999 because somebody else wasn't making its training, and then they put me in the spot, and I probably wasn't ready for the spot yet, but I wasn't going to turn it down either. And so I had to come up with a name very suddenly, and then believe it or not, there was this song by Tupac, and in the one of the lines in it is "Remember Kato," and I was like, that's cool. I'll just be Ken Kato. And so my debut match, I was Ken Kato, and then Sean, Dr. Feelgood, was like, we're going to be the Freebirds. You need something better than that. How about you be Casanova Kato? And I was like, cool, man. If we're going to get bookings, I'm all for
it. That's pretty neat.
I'm a huge Tupac fan. That's an awesome story.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people thought, well, I had the long blonde hair, and it was Kato Caitlin or Kato from the old TV show, but that's all it came down to. Just a lyric that I heard in a Tupac song.
Wow,
awesome. That's pretty cool.
So what? Why do you think? What actually led to a KCW folding?
I was worn out. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was doing everything for the company. I was promoting, hanging flyers, writing the shows. I was wrestling on the shows. I was training guys twice a week. And I was just burnt out. I think that if I wasn't so hands-on with everything, if I'd have gave somebody else some stuff to do and trusted their vision, I would have we may have still kept things going. But I always wanted the company, even from the beginning, to either succeed or fail. I didn't want to have to look back and say, this other guy, if he would have done more, this thing would have still been in business. So I did everything myself. And as a result, after 7.5 years, I just was burned out. I mean, it was crazy to think about. You know, I was working 60 hours a week on the highway, being a dad full time, being a husband full time, and I was doing all these other things for KCW. Plus, I was working other places. I mean, I was wrestling really regularly in the mid to late 2000s. So, like, I was just exhausted, man. I just and it was for what? Like I've never been a guy that and I know because I'm old, I'm supposed to say, it's all about the miles and the money, but it was never about the miles and the money. I respect the business and love the business. So for me, it was all about respect for the business and doing what's right for the business. And so at a certain point, it got to be where I didn't feel like the people around me were respecting the business on the same level I was. And I was making no money from it. I wasn't losing money, but I wasn't making money. So I thought, what am I doing, man? It's time to hang it up. And then, so when I did, I stopped promoting. Like personally, things really got very positive for a few years for me, where, we were able to buy a new house, and we were able to, I was able to get a promotion in my job. And when I focused on me and my family, things really went well for us. So it was a good decision in retrospect.
That's pretty cool. So, so now you're into your wrestling career a few years. Who's your biggest feud that you was in with any company? I mean, it could be any company that you work for.
Boy, oh boy, any feud that I've been in. I mean, at least locally, if you're staying just Central PA, I would have to say it's Bubba Brewer. Guys would bitch about working Bubba, and if he's watching this, he might get offended. But guys would bitch about having to work Bubba because he was so big and he was hard to move around. But I loved working Bubba. Bubba was one of my favorite guys to work with. We used to beat the dog shit out of each other. Sorry if I can't curse, but
oh, you're good.
No, you're good, buddy.
We used to beat each other so hard and for so long, and after a while, it sort of developed into what I would call a friendship, where you just hit somebody so many times where you're like, this guy, all right, I like this guy, and I do like Bubba. I like Bubba a lot, and in retrospect, if I had life to live over again, I think there should have been a lot more, and we had a lot of matches, but there should have been a lot more matches locally between Hastings and Altoona and Indiana. There should have been a lot more matches between the two of us.
when we interviewed him and we asked him the same question, and I believe his answer was with you also, right, Jay? He did say Kato, if I remember right.
I believe you're right.
And he said that the night that he put Honey through a table, him and Troy almost got killed.
It was really a good time for our company. We had TV then on Fox 8 for 18 weeks, and it was my mistake. I was putting our best stuff on television, so people weren't coming to the live events as much as they had been prior to that, and so it was a learning lesson. It was a learning situation for me. But whenever we advertised the cage match, and I told everybody that, well, listen, we're not going to put this on Fox 8, and we never did. That night was huge. I mean, that place was packed. Bubba had great heat that night, and the crowd was really with me. And, it's definitely one of my top 5 or 10 favorite memories of KCW. And I have a lot of great memories, and some of them don't even involve me, just stuff that I booked and wrote. And but yeah, definitely in my top 10 as far as just maybe period, not even just KCW, as far as what I remember from my whole career of 20 years or whatever it was. That night, I don't remember how the match was. I've not watched it the whole way through since, even though I just recently posted it, because I want to remember it as it was. I want to remember what the crowd sounded like and what the energy in the building felt like. So I just want to keep that with me forever. And it was just one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in a wrestling room.
Awesome.
Were you the solo booker for KCW?
Yes, the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, 7.5 years. So
wow.
Some of it was good, some of it was great, some of it was bad. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, at every level, everybody wants to remember even the past of, NWA and say how great it all was. And some of it was great, and some of it was bad too. So, that's just the ups and downs of running a promotion. Is that some of it's great, some of it's awful, some of it, just like training guys. Sometimes you get really great guys come out of your school, like a Bill Collier, and then you have guys that aren't so good, like Loverboy Lou, that come out of your school. So,
boy, that's from one spectrum to the other, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. So whenever I get a little too excited about, last night Bill being on AEW, I just have to ground myself and remember also you trained Loverboy Lou. So
many faces of Lou. I was there that night.
Yeah.
Many faces of Lou.
Yeah.
So now, what is your biggest regret in wrestling?
Well, I have lots. I mean, some of them are family related, but I don't know if you'd call it regret. I wish I knew then what I know now. Like there's no way to quantify that, but if I go back and look at the way I booked and wrote specific things, like I remember there was a night where our company was really we had built the whole company around Matt Vandal. I don't know if you guys remember him or know him at all, but
yeah,
we had built everything around Matt Vandal. And then he was leaving the company, and on his last night in wrestling, period, he just left. He was going to run his family business. He left, and I had him go under on his last night in the company, and he had meant so much to the company that he really should have won that night. I mean, it should have been a night for him. There's another night where we had a show down in Myersdale, and there was a kid named Mercury Flash. He was really good too, and it was his hometown and everything. And I had him in the main event, and I had him go under. And in retrospect, I'm like, this is dumb. Like, I was so caught up, in the title meaning so much that sometimes I forgot that there were other factors involved in wrestling that you don't think about. And then just from a strictly business standpoint, I've been always sort of blameful of promoters for allowing certain guys in the business that don't belong in the business or don't deserve or haven't put the work in to be in the business. And I don't want to turn this into a tirade about backyard wrestling, but I think that there was a few guys that just because they didn't leave the school and they kept coming back for their ass kicking, that I ended up putting them on shows, and I shouldn't have. Like as hard as they trained, they never got good, and I should have just never put them on shows. And I hate to keep going back to Loverboy Lou, but he's a good example. And there's a few other ones that I'm not going to hurt their feelings, but some of these guys should have never been on live shows.
I gotcha.
So
Jim?
okay, so Larry had biggest regret. What was your biggest accomplishment?
Honestly, God, my personal biggest accomplishment was just having that first KCW show. I've always been a guy that's sort of fed off people telling me I can't do something my whole adult life. So I do remember there used to be this thing online, and for whatever reason, I'd check it from time to time. It was called the Indie Message Board. And it was a pariah and a plague on professional wrestling in Pennsylvania and Ohio and West Virginia. Like, it was the worst thing. It was just the worst thing. People would post the most anonymous, rotten shit that you could think of. And I had posted, the original tent. There was a guy from Indiana named Josh who had the indie board. He was a nice guy, and I did like Josh. I know some other people didn't like him, but whatever. His original intent was it was supposed to be a place to promote shows. So I was promoting my first show on there, and somebody had posted underneath, "What is this? What is KCW?" And then someone else replied, "The skinny pale freebird thinks he's going to run shows," and it went through me like a knife. And so that first night we drew 234 paid, which in the grand scheme of the world isn't like the greatest gate ever, but for me to have a positive night and a positive return on my investment that night was just amazing. And then a close second was the one War Games where we had 600 people in the building with no names on the show. That was pretty damn cool too.
Was that the night Calvin was above the ring and the rafters? Was that night?
The 600 people night?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. No. He was he would have been in the War Games, but I think that had something to do with an Ultimate X match or a ladder match. He went to steal the belt that way or something like that.
Yeah. I was there for that one. I don't remember the War Games match.
Boy, I'll never forget the feeling of stepping through the curtain that night and just seeing this wave of people in the armory. It was really incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a indie show. Really good.
No names.
Those armory shows were something else, man. I love that.
Me too, man. I really miss those days. I miss that building. I miss that energy. I think that the wrestling audience has changed for good for obvious reasons. I mean, even before COVID, the audience had changed because just fans. There's so much wrestling now, as opposed to in the mid 2000s. Like, they're oversaturated with wrestling between TV and YouTube and even the number of independent shows. Like, they're just so it's hard to get them excited in the way they were in 2005 and 2006.
Yeah, I also love that armory, man. That going to them shows was the best. Hot as hell some nights, but geez, it was worth it.
On the bright side, it was never cold in the winter, though. They kept it at a temperature.
It was never cold in
December or August, it was always at least 90 degrees.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those nights. So we talked about KCW. Let's talk about Imagine. How did that come along? How did the birth of Imagine happen?
Really, there's a guy locally named Jeremy Chaplin who, if he had not pestered me for years on end, it would have never happened. He really badly wanted to see me bring wrestling back to the area. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you invest some money and we can find two other people to invest some money to get this thing off the ground, because I just didn't feel like dumping all my money into it. And I didn't feel like I had that same energy that I did when I was 25 to run like a crazy person. And I said, if we can get enough help and get enough dollars behind this thing, I'm willing to make it go. And I had no sooner put something up, and Mike Lettieri, who's from Altoona, jumped right on board. and Donnie from Pittsburgh, who he was a ring announcer for Bubba before. He jumped on board for this as well. And yeah, so if these three guys had not jumped on board, this thing would have never happened for sure. I mean, so we started talking. We had a group meeting together, and from there things sort of snowballed, and here we are now where, last year we were going to run 25 shows if it hadn't been for COVID. So once things open back up, we want to get back on a schedule of 25 to 30 shows a year.
That's awesome. We bought our tickets for the May 15th show. So
I saw. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, we're gonna be there.
well, I mean, Bill Collier's going to be there, so irregardless, you'll get your money's worth.
Yeah,
No doubt.
absolutely.
So I always like to close on the show. Who's the best guy you ever worked with?
There's not been one controversial question, not one thing that's going to make somebody mad later. You don't want to ask.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to shoot.
I mean, I told you
Well, I'm getting okay.
I'm willing
Okay,
to.
so I'm getting to it.
Okay.
I'm getting to it. So,
Good.
who's the best guy you ever worked with? I'm sorry, my dog's jumping in here.
That's all right. The best in-ring guy.
Would you get the hell out of here?
I don't know. That's tough to say because so many guys brought so many different things to the table. It really depends on what your favorite style of match is. Do you like a scientific match? Do you like a brawling match? Do you like a death match? I've done all those. So, my skill set was always when I was wrestling, to try to adapt their style and my style together to have the best match that I possibly could. I really enjoyed my favorite matches were not against guys like Bill Collier or Calvin McGrath or a guy in Pittsburgh, Scotty Gash. Like, those were not my favorite matches because I was expected to have a great match with those guys because I was pretty good and they were really good. So there was a lot of pressure there. Whereas if you go in the ring against a guy who's not really known as a great wrestler and you can have this match that blows people away, that's the real accomplishment. And that's what I loved. Guys like, I'm not trying to disparage them because, a lot of guys don't like working with great big guys. But I liked working Bubba, and I liked working Troy, guys that were just big brawlers. And my brother Lenny, I loved working with him, and of course I loved working with guys like a Scotty Gash, who was really great, and just up and down the list. I loved working so many guys. There's literally 5 or 7 guys that I could think of out of hundreds and hundreds that I wrestled that I didn't like. So I know it's a very political question. I know it's a very political answer, but
subsequently, who was the biggest shithead that you had in your locker room?
In my locker room, shithead didn't last in KCW. So, but if you're talking about just in general of other places that I worked, there was this guy named Lightning. And when you think of Lightning, you think of a guy who's small and fast. Lightning was small in stature, like 5'3", but he also weighed 400 pounds, and he was the drizzling shits. He, the first time I met him, and I worked him on the same show, and he told me at that time, I'm going to say this is 2008 maybe, he had said, I've been working for 17 years, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Well, this fat idiot walked around the ring one time slapping hands, got in the ring, locked up with me, and said, oh, we got to take it home. I'm blown up. And I what shit you are. So I proceeded to spud this guy for the next 5 minutes, and then I picked his fat ass up and dropped him on his head, and that's how we went out. I was so mad. I mean, I cussed him out. If someone were to cuss me out the way I cussed him out in the locker room, you'd think you'd want to throw hands, but he just knew he sucked and shouldn't be in the wrestling business. So, yeah. And then years later, he went to jail for being a child rapist. So fuck that guy. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So no respect for him.
Who's the biggest star you ever worked with in the ring?
I mean, again, depends on your definition. I mean, I wrestled Jimmy Snuka, who also apparently was a murderer, and Larry Zbyszko. I teamed with Blue Meanie. I worked against and with New Jack before, so
You
which
worked New Jack?
yeah, a couple different times. Yeah.
Were you afraid he was going to blade you?
No, I loved New Jack. He was really great with me, and yeah, I New Jack has a bad reputation of beating guys up, but the guys he beats up are guys who don't respect the business and don't put in the work, and guys who aren't properly trained. New Jack, not for nothing, is properly trained, man. He really put in the work and learned his craft, and then found a niche that really works for him. So, he New Jack always understood that I respected the business and I loved the business, and even though I was a promoter at the show that night, I let him lead because he was the veteran. So, he appreciated that, and so you won't get me to say a bad word about New Jack. I would. He's another guy. If I saw him today, I'd hug him and I'd thank him because he loves the business. It's this thing that he does, this wild and violent. Yeah, could he at any moment snap and shoot somebody? Of course, but does he also love and respect the business? Absolutely. So, in turn, I have nothing but love and respect for Jack.
That's pretty awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I was always a big New Jack fan. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he gets a little messed up on stuff and he's a little harder to handle, but doesn't matter. He's still he's business. He's business. As long as you don't disrespect him or the wrestling business, you won't get stabbed in the back of the neck.
All right, so if say a 16, 17, 18-year-old guy or girl comes up to you and they ask you, or they say to you that they want to get into the pro wrestling business, what is one thing that you would tell them right off the bat that they would need to know about pro wrestling? One tip.
Get in shape. Get in shape before you even step inside of a real wrestling school. Get yourself in shape. Start doing Hindu squats, body weight push-ups. Start going to the gym. The day of the bodybuilder is over, and I'm thankful for that. The great big jacked up guy who tears tendons and ligaments every time you turn around. But any credible school that you go to is going to push you physically in ways that you didn't think were possible, and so all that is important. Get in shape. That's the biggest thing I would say, and make sure you love it, man, because it takes more from you than it gives you. That's I mean, it can be very rewarding, and I would say 95% of what I've been through has been very positive and very rewarding. The other 5% can really weigh you down, though, man. It can really suck your soul out and suck the life out of you some days. But the other 95% really makes it all worth it.
That's awesome. Jay, you have anything?
I just want to say, Kato, thank you. You gave me countless hours of enjoyment of wrestling, whether you were booking it or you were in the match. I enjoyed everything you ever did. I loved KCW. Larry and I used to drive out, and I really enjoyed it. Everything you ever did. You came to Johnstown a couple of times, and we enjoyed you, and I appreciate you coming on with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it. I'll do it anytime. Let's just make it a little more controversial next time. But I'm glad we could do that, man. That group that we had back in those days. I mean, not taking anything away from the group we have now, but man, they were passionate, man. They loved putting smiles on people's faces, and just I'm sure some of them are going to see what you said there tonight, so I'm sure they appreciate it as well. But man, we really love the business, and guys that I've surrounded myself with are people that really love the business, and that's what we do it for. I mean, because none of us are getting rich. We just want to know that people feel like they're getting their money's worth and having a good time.
Well, I appreciate you 100%.
So, Larry, you're having problems there. That bad internet in Johnstown, huh?
Yeah, something's going on. Can you just hear me or see me?
I can hear you, not see you though.
We can hear you. Thank God we can't see you.
Yeah.
It's like a little bonus.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm trying to see what's going on. Well, at least you can hear me. So, the next couple things I got for you, is there any future plans? Do you have any? What's your future plans in wrestling?
Well, we're going to continue to plug away at these Imagine shows, and we have a weekly Wednesday night show at 7:00. I've shared it to your page here a few times. There you are.
Hey, thank God.
Sort of.
Jesus
A little
Christ.
cutting in and out. But yeah, we see you. So yeah, we're going to continue to plug away at that. Our next live event, or finally, we're going to get to have another live show on May 15th. There, just outside of the Juniata Civic Center in the big lot next door. And so tickets for that are $20 for the VIP tickets and $15 for the general admission. And then of course we have the dojo. We train guys there at the school, and I would put my school up against anybody's. I mean, we've traveled to other schools, and I'm not trying to disparage them, but I mean, I've been to Dr. Tom's school. We've had people go to Ricky Morton school, and no disrespect to either of them, because I love them. We've had them at our dojo before, but I mean, I really would, in a lot of ways, put my school based, if you consider the cost and everything together, right on their tier. And guys can get to where they want to get to from here. Like I posted yesterday, there we have Bill Collier, who didn't come through the Imagine dojo, but was training with me back when it was the KCW school. And then Chris LaRusso, same boat, trained with me at the KCW school. He got to work at Ring of Honor. And then Sebastian also trained at the KCW school with me, and he got to work on WWE a couple different times. Once against Kurt Angle on SmackDown. So, if you're interested in being a professional wrestler in Central Pennsylvania, there's only one school. So it's the place to be. It's the place to go. And we promise to teach you. We'll teach you right and give you the tools to succeed at every level. Whether you're just content being an independent wrestler, or you want to try your wares at the top level on national television, it can make it happen. So
awesome. That's awesome. So I got to ask you this, right? Are you an AEW or WWE guy?
I'm a WWE guy, with one caveat. If they do sign Bill Collier, that'll change very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm a WWE guy. I like my matches to make sense, and I like my athletes to look like stars, and so yeah, and I like my booking to make sense. And
attaboy.
I hate dives. I don't mind a dive, but I don't want to see 16 in every match. I like my wrestling to look like wrestling and not, a gymnastics show. So, and I'm glad that AEW is there, because it gives the guys another place to work and another place to go and another opportunity to make money. I'm glad it's there. And I think over time they're going to have to change and evolve and not be what they are now. And I think they will. I think they'll be better 2 years from now than they are now. But right now they are just, it's difficult for me to watch. Whenever I can turn on my TV and see Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan on TV and Cesaro, these guys are, they look like,
they're grown men.
Exactly. They look like grown men. So let me ask you this, Larry. If you're walking down the street and on one side of the street is Roman Reigns and on the other side of the street is Marco Stunt, and you have to fight one of them, what are you going to do?
I'm going to go straight for Marco.
So that tells you everything you should know about which company is better right now. There are no Marco Stunts on WWE.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Easy, JJ.
I've been saying that for months, and now it takes Kato for you to take that. How dare you?
Yeah. It's all luck in the world, and I hope that they really succeed. There are the thing about AEW is right now that WWE does not have, is they have that coolness factor that you cannot put a price on, and you cannot gauge. Like much in the way, even in the mid to late 90s, when WCW sort of overtook the ratings, the wrestling wasn't better. There's no two ways. WWE had a better product, a more streamlined television show, but the coolness factor of the NWO, like you couldn't put a price on that. That was fantastic. Like,
right.
Like it was just, I mean, it was so widespread, everybody got with it. And until Austin really started popping on all cylinders, and he was cool, like they didn't have a chance of catching up to them. So, and AEW has that right now. There's a certain coolness factor to what they're doing. If the wrestling catches up to the coolness factor, then they're going to be the best brand. Turn on your mic, Larry.
Sorry. I hate you, Lund. So anyway, anybody that doesn't know you, you're a big collector of comic books and wrestling stuff. So what is your most favorite piece in your collection?
Jeez Louise. I don't know. I got so much of it here. Here's a magazine with Lou Thez from 1963 that I just happen to have behind me. There's a big stack of ones I just got. Here's 3 boxing and wrestling magazines from 1933, if you can see that. Here's probably the oldest piece that I have. I just put it up the other day online. It's Jim Lundis from December of 1931. But I mean, I really am just as far as wrestling goes, I used to be a figures collector. I had probably 1,000 of them at one time, but I've unloaded all of those except for 6. And Larry, you know about that. I think you picked up a lot of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as magazines, like that's my big collector's item now. I probably have in the range of 1,200 different wrestling magazines.
Oh, wow.
From 1931 up to 2017.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and every one that I have read from front to back. So, I love learning about wrestling from all different eras and what worked and how they were presented in kayfabe in different areas of time. Like the way wrestling was presented much more kayfabe even in the 70s than what it was in the 50s and in the 30s. It's weird. Like they were sort of a little more open about it in the 50s, the way what wrestling was, than what they were in the 70s. So every time you hear about, kayfabe, and then you look at the way it's covered in the magazines in the 1950s, everybody knew what wrestling was in the 1950s, but they didn't care because it wasn't insulting to their intelligence, just like a television show. And then for whatever reason, it evolved to the 70s where, oh, no, we're all real. And this is this. And then it transitioned back, again in the 90s where they gave up on trying to convince people. But so it's for me, the magazines are as much about learning history, and then I have a lot of wrestling books too that I read. So I would like to fancy myself as a wrestling historian, even though there's probably literally thousands of people that know more about wrestling than I do.
That's pretty cool. So now we're going to be closing out the show, but we're going to have a little fun here real quick. I'm going to name 5 WWE guys, 5 AEW guys, and 5 KCW and Imagine Wrestling guys. And we need one-word answers.
One word, got it.
One word. All right, so we're going to start off. Roman Reigns.
Great.
John Cena. John Cena.
Money.
Triple H.
Smart.
The Undertaker.
Timeless.
And last one for WWE, Hulk.
Racist.
All right. So now on to AEW. Orange Cassidy.
Oi.
Joke.
Brian Cage.
Steroids.
John Moxley.
Good.
MJF.
Heel.
And the last one for AEW, Abaddon.
Gross.
All right, so now we're going to go on to the KCW and Imagine guys. Bad Bubba Brewer,
Fun.
Bill Collier,
Amazing.
Julio De Niro,
Teacher.
Matt Vandal,
Damn it, one word. Retired too early.
All right, we'll give you that.
Retired too early. I tried to say it fast, so it was just one word.
We'll give you that, buddy. We'll give you
Yep.
that.
Okay, then the last one, Casanova Kato.
Lucky.
Absolutely. That was great. So, Kato, we just want to appreciate you for taking the time and coming on with us tonight and talking and having some fun. And we will see you May 15th.
Just in case she listens, I don't know if she will, but none of this ever throughout the entire of this 22 years would have been possible without my undying support from my wife. She was never really a wrestling fan, but she supported me in a way that you guys can't even imagine. I know a lot of guys, women, their wives and their girlfriends don't really fully support them on things they don't understand. But my wife did. She really went to bat for me. And none of this, KCW, Kato, Imagine Wrestling, would have happened without her full support.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's very awesome. But thank you for coming on with us. You're
Glad to do it, man.
helping us get a kickstart. We're trying to do something new, and we appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear the Spencer Slade one, man. That guy has a awesome story, incredibly hard worker, and a good dude, man. We expect big things for Spencer Slade in the near future.
All right.
That's awesome.
We're gonna get you. I would like to get you on to do a pay-per-view preview or a pay-per-view review at some point.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love. I'm a wrestling guy. I watch a mountain of it, so anytime.
Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you 1,000 times. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. This is better than I expected, so I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Kato. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.